Good morning, everybody. Enter the stars. Glad you guys could make it this morning. We'll let you guys all filter in. Got some mind-shattering revelations to go over today. I'm going to try to slow down so that some of these concepts can kind of sink in and we can begin to understand what is going on around us. And I've got some screenshots pulled up from WESTWORLD, and this is what we're going to review today. We're going to be on here for a little while, and we're going to get into some of these concepts. Now, just in the last 30 minutes or so, some of these concepts began to formulate and materialize and congeal into what I believe are some of the most ultimate truths about our reality and our heritage and where we came from and so on and so forth. And we're going to examine those today in this show. Now, I've got some notes pulled up. We're going to follow this outline regarding the HBO series WESTWORLD. Now, what makes WESTWORLD so important in terms of television series in which they try to use deception or use the truth to tell their deception? Well, we're going to get into that. What is WESTWORLD about? WESTWORLD is about a whole land of androids that are created by man for their own personal desire. This is all funded by corporate America in the series, and they build this world out in the West. It is a Western, but it also has some very dramatic themes running through it that all of us can look at and start to derive some of the truths. One thing is apparent, that the enemy is, in fact, very, very into what the Bible talks about. And that's what I want everyone to get to understand and see, is that this isn't just entertainment. This isn't just media. Devil reveals himself, okay? He's got his hand in the cookie jar. And something even as inert as some of the television series or Hollywood productions are going to show us bits and pieces of the reality that we live in, because the devil is going to use these truths to tell his lie. Now, I couldn't believe what I found today. As always, it seems like every day we're making these new kind of discoveries about what's going on in our reality. This is a screenshot from the introduction of WESTWORLD. And as you can see, these are repeating themes that we've talked about on this channel going back 2 years ago. This is the eye. Now, in this series, this HBO series, they show all of these androids living in WESTWORLD, which is the world underneath the cornea of the eye. Here you see it. The land represents the iris of the eye. This is the pupil. There's no mistaking this. And these androids are actually bathed in this fluid, which looks like milk. And this is how they are born into this world. They are born in through the lens of the eye. Now, we've been talking about the analogy between the womb and the eye going back on this channel for 2 years. We saw the similarities, and I believe that was a gift of the Holy Spirit. But the enemy is going to try to twist that, and he does indeed twist this in this series, trying to basically put God down and make us all hate God and think of God as some kind of God who just is using all this for his enjoyment somehow. These are shots again from the introduction of WESTWORLD. We're going to get into what WESTWORLD means. Here's the lens through which these androids are born. Now, at a certain point, these androids begin to become self-aware. They begin to wake up to the amnesia. Yes, the amnesia, which is an analogy for the amniotic fluid in the womb that makes us forget. when we are born into this world. We forget everything. Now, let's pull this up here. WESTWORLD, what does it mean? And I believe this is where the fallen angels were in prison in the book of Enoch. And this is what they're trying to represent in the term WESTWORLD. Let me show you where this is. Unbelievable. This is the book of Enoch. And in it, they talk about, in chapter 66, a place in the West. Yes, a place in the West where there is gold and tin and soft metals, and that these beings, these fallen angels, are buried in the earth in this very location. Chapter 66, let's read a few verses out of this and look at what they were most likely talking about the place in the West where these angels were. Let's do a search on this page here. And they shall confine those angels who disclosed impiety, which were all the things that the fallen angels taught man. And that burning valley, it is, they shall be confined, which at first my great-grandfather Enoch showed me in the West. This is WESTWORLD, okay? Where there are mountains of gold and silver, of iron, of fluid metal, and tin. I beheld that valley in which there was great perturbation and where the waters were troubled. Now, we had covered this book of Enoch in this verse and talked about these hot springs that have this strong smell of sulfur, and that they are fueled by the evil of the fallen angels and the earth beneath them. Okay, this is what fuels these hot springs. And as these angels are released, these fallen angels are released, this prophecy says that in these last days that these springs will grow cold. Yes, these hot springs in the West, where all the gold is, will grow cold. This is in the prophecy of Enoch, chapter 66. And it says that these great kings of the Bible will go to these hot springs, and it will soothe their soul, but it will destroy their spirit. And it says here, they will undergo a change, and they will become frozen, these hot springs. So this is something that we are going to be on the lookout for as we begin to examine future prophecies and future events in this world. So I believe that WESTWORLD is the place where these fallen angels are buried under the earth. Now, in the WESTWORLD hell, they are subconsciously running dysfunctional media programs. And this persists throughout the series. They show that these androids get stuck in these pre-written time loops, like programming loops, algorithms, okay? Now, in our present life, in our reality, these algorithms are actually created by pop stars, TV actors, Hollywood. They are the ones that create our behavioral patterns, okay? And we mimic them. They are the Pied Pipers, dictating our pre-programs, our algorithms. And that is what I believe is happening. We run these time loops, these program loops. And at the base of these program loops are drugs, our given personalities that we actually manifest, our identities, our mannerisms, labels that we apply to each other, labels that we label on ourselves, even all the way down to speech patterns. And I believe all this is very real. And I believe they know this. And this is why they create these algorithms for us to run, these programs for us to run. Now, throughout this series, they talk about milk. And they actually show these scenes of milk and human sacrifice. Now, this is another concept that we've talked about extensively on our channel years ago, that milk actually meant human sacrifice. And we explained to you why they put missing children on milk cartons because it was all about sacrifice. Another subscriber came forward in a video that we did showing that the Twin Towers were the exact dimension of a certain size of milk cartons. And then when the people died in those milk cartons, right about that time when was when they started putting these kids on the milk cartons. Actually, that started back in the 90s, I believe. But we find these odd synchronicities, and also throughout many, many films where they associate death, murder, and sacrifice with milk. It's not just in Westworld, okay? It's in many of these other films. They pour milk out, or milk spills on the floor before someone dies. And if you don't believe me, just go back through horror and thriller movie history, and you will see these patterns persisting. Now, there is the ongoing theme of amnesia. And basically, as each of these androids dies over and over again, they forget. Their brains are wiped. And the theme persists that there is a reincarnative effect going on every time one of these androids is sacrificed in this Disneyland-esque environment. Now here you see basically the center of this actual of the model that they're looking at. This is the scale model of Westworld. This is the inside of underneath the surface of the retina. Okay, so they're showing you the, I'm sorry, not the retina, the iris here. They're showing you the iris here, but this is hell. Okay, this is hell, and that's why they depict it in red. And the entire model is backwards. It's inverted. Now, how do I know that, Casey? Well, they tell us in Westworld why this is inverted. Okay. Basically, what you have is the iris, which is Siri backwards. Any of those of you with iPhones or Androids who speak into Siri understand that you're speaking into the iris. Okay, this is where they're collecting the information. And through this pupil, which is the black hole, you enter hell. And this is where these people are. Okay, they are in hell. And this is where Westworld is. It is in hell. And it's all backward because the truth is actually inside the eye. And I'm going to show that to you as well. Here, these are two androids here. And they say, hell is empty and all the devils are here. So they repeat this theme that they're in hell over and over again. Now, again, when these androids are recreated, they are born into this milk substance. Okay. And this also becomes a substance by which they are sacrificed. So death and rebirth occur through this milky continuum, okay, this milky conduit. So it's a little bit more about what's going on with this. Now, this is odd because this is the scale model of Westworld as their masters, their slave masters are looking down onto this plan of the actual Westworld. And in this portion of the film, the floor falls out from underneath and you see it clearly that this is the honeycomb matrix. Now, where do we see this on the planet? We see this everywhere. We see it at the Devil's Causeway. We see it at, the Giant's Causeway. We see it in Mammoth, in the Devil's Postpile. And we also see it at Devil's Tower, I think in Wyoming. These strange hexagonal matrices. Now, you'll notice that this is inverted. And if you were to flip this upside down and look within, instead of looking out through the cornea and the lens of the eye, and if you look within, we have videos showing you that these become the tree stumps, just like the Devil's Tower in Wyoming, the tree stumps that once reached to heaven. Okay. They're depicting basically an inverted tree stump here is what they're showing us. Okay, and that is the strange thing. So here's your tree stump going inside inside the eye. And this is looking outside into hell, you see. Now, I'm going to take a pause here and see where we go on from here. Now, in this series, the womb is presented as the surface of the eye. Okay, the womb is presented as the surface of the eye. What they're showing us here. So here is the surface of the eye. Here is the cornea. Okay, here is the iris. Here's the pupil. And this is what they're showing us, the surface of the eye. But it's actually the opposite, as I was just telling you. It's actually within that we find the truth. So they're showing us everything backwards. The robots are forged in the lens, which is underground, which is exactly where the command center is for the WESTWORLD. It's right underneath here. And they go up in these elevators to get to the surface. Okay. And they're forged. They come through the lens, which is underneath the pupil. Remember, if you remember your eye anatomy, you'll remember that the pupil is just above the lens. Let me show you that real quick here. Here's the eye anatomy, and they are showing WESTWORLD here on the iris. Here's your cornea, and here's the lens beneath. Now, this is where things get very, very interesting. Because not only are they repeating these same themes that we've already talked about long before WESTWORLD was ever even created, we are seeing that these themes are true. We did some videos on the matrix and what it probably means. There is an epithelial layer just underneath the cornea here. There's also a cross-section of the lens of the eye here. And finally, the cross-section of the actual lining of your interior part of your eye, the rods and cones. And those three structures of the eye, when cross-sectioned, show us the hexagonal matrix. And I want you to let that sink in for a second, because this is deep. It occurs in threes. Really, no one else has considered or looked at that. We've actually identified the lens through which we see the world. Let's do epithelial layer, cornea. This is the epithelial layer of the cornea. In the images here, let me show you this. As a honeycomb matrix. Was it endothelial corneal layer? Let me see if I can find this while I've got you guys live. Cornea, let's put in honeycomb. I actually even call it honeycomb. Here it is here. Here is the corneal endothelium. Okay. This is unbelievable. I believe these were the scales that fell from Saul's eyes in the Bible so he could see, stripped away of the sin. These are the scales of the serpent. This is what we are mixed with that is causing us to see through the lens of the serpent. This is the hex that was put on us through sin. Now we're going to dig deeper into the show, and I'm going to show you how sin, I believe, represents silicon. And when you take the middle letters out of the word silicon, you will see the word sin. And I'm going to show you how each and every one of us have silicon in our bodies, and that we are WESTWORLD. That is what they are depicting. Now, I just showed you the endothelial cornea, which is underneath here. Now I'm going to show you a cross section of the actual lens of your eye. Lens, eye, honeycomb, or let's put in a cross section. Remember, the devil does everything in threes. The cross section of the lens of the eye, and we have the very same honeycomb matrix. These are the scales of the serpent. Now, how could God let this happen? He didn't let it happen. The serpent infected us. Here it is right here. This is a cross section. It exists as a hexagonal matrix. And last but not least, the devil always does everything in threes, as he infected mankind with his bloodline, the enmity between the seeds talked about in the book of Genesis. In the very beginning, God was already talking about this. Last but not least, the rods and the cones. This lines the inner eye, lines this entire inner surface of the eye. So we have the three layers: endothelium, lens, and now finally the rods and cones. Sectional images. Again, we have the honeycomb matrix. This is the matrix, you guys. This is the hex that we're born into. There's only one way out. God tells us, and even though I show people this stunning information, they can't quite get their brain around what has happened to us. We've been corrupted. Now this goes deeper, because what they were showing here is you're looking in from the inside of the eye, looking out. Here is your iris. You're in the inside of the eye looking out, and they've cut away everything else. And this is the white picket fence and the lens of the eye. The white picket fence and the lens of the eye that Katy Perry talked about. Are we crazy living our lives through a lens, trapped in our white picket fence? Living life through a lens, trapped in our white picket fence. You see, the elite know the truth. They know that we live on the surface of this inner eye. And this is fascinating because she talks about living in a bubble, in case you didn't want to believe me. Okay. In her song, Chained to the Rhythm. Now, what is the chain? The chain is their evil chain that keeps you in this physical reality, that keeps you in WESTWORLD, keeps you in hell. This is what they have you chained to through their Pied Piper. Chained to the rhythm, chained to the melody, chained to the algorithms. Are you starting to understand how they keep you locked in hell? This is hell up here, you guys. WESTWORLD, the land of the fallen angels. Do you see how I'm not making all this up? Do you see how the themes are there in front of your face? If you just open your eyes and see the truth for what it is. Okay? Casey, how do you put all this together? It's not me putting it together. This is the gift of the Holy Spirit showing you the truth. This is not where you want to be. You do not want to be in WESTWORLD. Okay? You want to find the truth within. And we're going to get to that part of the show in just a bit. As soon as I check in with you guys. Glad you guys are able to make it out. And all of you guys popped in here. All right, let's keep this going because it goes way deeper. All right. Now, here we are in WESTWORLD in the white picket fence, trapped in the lens. Okay. All right, let's pull up the notes here. Stay on track here. So again, they depict the world atop the iris instead of below. Okay. Everything's inverted. We actually live on the inner surface of the lens, and below us is hell. So take everything that you're seeing here and flip it upside down. Let's do that for you guys. You can get a visual on this. We actually live in here. This is the looking out into the material realm. This is what deceives you. This is what steals your salvation. You know the two thieves on the cross? You know what that really represented? Your two eyes. The two thieves were the two eyes. And the crossing on the cross was actually the cross of the optic nerves coming in through the middle of your brain. Okay. Now, as I told you, each of these androids is rendered. It's almost like a 3D rendering device. All right. They show it in the introduction of every episode of Westworld. They show these androids rendered with this white substance, this white milky material, like on a 3D rendering machine. Okay. As they're laid out and onto this lens. Okay. And then what happens? They are then dipped in this milky substance where all their flesh is added to them, and then they're let go into this world. All right. Now here's where things get interesting. There is another umbilical cord. And let's first go into what the analogies are of the eye and the womb. The eye and the womb are one and the same. Let's close this up. The eye and the womb are one and the same. Let me see if I can find the picture of the womb that I had pulled up for you guys. Here it is here. We'll quickly go over the similarities of what this is. Okay. There are very similar structures between the womb and the eye. I'm going to show those to you if I can get these side by side. All right. We have the hyaloid canal, which is basically a tether that connects this lens to the optic nerve. It goes all the way through the center of your eye. When you're in the womb, there's an artery that travels through it. Its sole purpose is to nourish and grow the lens of your eye. As soon as you're born, it disappears, just like the umbilical cord. It has the very same function. The function is to connect and nourish the child. Now, if you look here, you will see that the child's crown, his crown, he loses his crown once he's born into this physical reality. When a child comes through the womb and through the cervix, they say the child is crowning. When actually the child loses its crown is when it's born into sin, born into this reality. Now, the cervix is down here, and it acts just like the iris, opening and closing, allowing the inverted child to pass through into this physical reality. Now, here's what's interesting. When the image comes in through your eye, the light enters your eye, it inverts the image, just like the child is upside down in the womb, okay? You think that these similarities are accidents? No, they're not. This is real. Now, we also have the retina surrounding the eye, okay? And this retina is just like the placenta, also providing nourishment. We also have the amniotic fluid inside, which is just like the vitreous humor inside the eye here. This entire eye is filled with the vitreous humor, okay? And what else is there in here that is similar? The, what do you call it? The sexual organs of the female anatomy resemble fruit. We did some videos on this. Actually resemble the three fruits mentioned in the Bible: pomegranates, figs, and grapes. And those same pomegranate, fig, and grape structures persist inside the inner walls of the eye, kind of matching up with the female anatomy, right? Let's see if we can pull up some images of the fruit of the inner eye. Why they talk about fruit throughout the Bible. Let's see. Let's look at this. Rods and cones. Eye. Really good images of the three structures that look like fruit inside the inner eye. Now let's put cross section here. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. This is it. They're called bipolar cells, ganglion, rods and cones. And they, in fact, look like pomegranates, grapes, and figs. And they actually have very similar functions, believe it or not. So this is the fruit of the inner eye, fruitfulness, okay? Now we've got videos going into far more detail, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to cut that off at that point and talk about and move on to the next points and topics. But if you're curious about these inner structures of the eye and how they relate to fruit and back to the Bible, I have plenty of videos on my channel. Hopefully all of you know how to do a channel search. You can go to any channel and there's a search bar and you can type in keywords and phrases and search my videos and any videos on any channel for that matter. All right, you guys, let's continue on with some of these concepts. I promised you guys that we were going to get into very high detail on this show because this is important. This is very important stuff. Okay. Now, the true umbilical is the hyaloid canal. It is the narrow gate. What do I mean by that? Well, when you're looking out into this reality, when you're looking out this way, this is the wide gate. The narrow gate is within. It is the hyaloid canal. That is where you will find the truth in the inner structures of the human body that lead you into all truth about God and his son. We've done that on this channel. We've showed you guys the inner structures of the eye that has led us into all truth, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jesus was real and God is real. And the way out is through the Son. That is the only way to the Father. We've shown you guys that. So when Katy Perry talks about changing to the rhythm, she's talking about another narrow gate, or their gate, their dark, evil gate, their umbilical, which tethers us to hell, okay, through this programming. Now, what they call this picket fence-like structure is called the ciliary body, okay? This is called the ciliary body. And this is what attaches the lens to the rest of the eye. And it is a white picket fence. Let's close up some of these windows here. Get on track here. Now they keep mentioning, let's get into this. So in this series, these androids begin to become self-aware, okay? They begin to understand and remember and not see these other episodes in their life as dreams anymore, but as part of their reality. And this is when they decide to basically turn on their captors and try to find a way out. Now, the series doesn't offer any solutions to escape. Basically, both options are bad options because the androids escaping Westworld would only put them in the real world, which is basically another hell, because they realize how their masters have been treating them, that people come into Westworld and they rape and they pillage and they murder, okay? So how much better is the world outside of Westworld than inside of Westworld, okay? And at the very end, here's a spoiler alert, this woman actually leads the rebellion, and at the end, she has an opportunity to escape Westworld, but instead, she chooses to come back and stay in Westworld. In other words, the hell in Westworld, at least these androids are gods in that world, okay? Because they have everlasting life in Westworld because they just keep repairing them and putting them back in there. And they have superhuman strength, and now they have the ability to think for themselves. Now, here's where things get interesting because I'm going to tie all of this in together beyond a shadow of a doubt because I made an amazing discovery regarding what all of this really means. Now, if you're doubting the connection between the womb and the eye, I'm going to prove it to you. Substance called Wharton's jelly. It only in the umbilical cord and the vitreous humor of the eye. I mean, this just blew me away when I discovered this today. This is Wharton's jelly. It is gelatinous substance that occurs within the umbilical cord and the vitreous humor of the eye. This links the womb with the eye. But more importantly, one of the components of the Wharton's jelly is hyaluronic acid. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story because when I was in Texas, I got a call from a recruiter who asked me if I would be interested in knee injections with this company. So I did a phone interview, and it's a 1099 job, and I never sold anything to this point. But I believe this was part of the journey that God was taking me on so that I could reveal this ultimate truth to you guys today. This substance, hyaluronic acid, occurs naturally in a chicken comb, which is basically the inside of the chicken, the top of a rooster's head. Okay, it's called a chicken comb, and inside of this is hyaluronic acid. It is a natural substance with a high molecular weight that seems to mimic the synovial fluid that is inside of your knee and all of your joints for that matter. Okay. The high molecular weight is almost identical. It's bioidentical to the substance in the chicken comb. So what they do is they draw this substance out of the knee and then they insert this hyaluronic acid into the knee to help cushion it. So I was accepted for this job. Again, I was kind of in the preliminary stages. I thought this would be a great adjunct to what I do here on YouTube. Okay. Don't let anyone ever tell you inner stars can't go out and get a job. Okay. I can get a job all day long, but it's got to be the right job. As far as I can tell, I'd rather be here with all of you standing up and fighting the fight than compromising some job that takes up all my time and is contributing to this matrix world. Okay. I'd rather be doing this with you guys. So they approved me for this job. Okay. So I started going out there hunting to see if there was any doctors that might be interested in this because I thought it was natural, and it is natural, and it is the same molecular weight as the fluid in your knee. So this probably is helping people. But let's get into what hyaluronic acid is. Remember, hyaluronic acid is in the knee, but it's also a component of this Wharton's jelly, which only occurs in the umbilical cord and the vitreous humor of the eyeball. Now let's dig deeper into this rabbit hole because this is unbelievable. This is hyaluronic acid. And as you can see here, it is distributed widely throughout the connective, epithelial, and neural tissues. Remember the endothelium of the cornea of the eye? You guys, it says here that its molecular weight is similar to the hyaluronic acid, and it is one of the chief components of the extracellular matrix. I'm going to say that again. It is one of the chief components of the extracellular matrix. Now, this is crazy. They call it the goo molecule. It is part of the extracellular matrix. It's what holds it together. Make sure we're still connected here. Good, we are. And where Where was I? Where was I? Oh, hyaluronic acid. Okay, let's see here. It is a major component of the skin where it is involved in tissue repair. It is one of the components of cancer. Cancer cannot exist without this hyaluronic acid, but also it is essential in wound repair. It has been used in the synthesis of biological scaffolds for wound healing applications. And finally, skin healing. They actually found less fibrous scarring in the womb, with the fetuses presenting almost no scarring in the womb because of increased levels of hyaluronic acid. And when they removed the hyaluronic acid from the womb, it resulted in fibrotic scarring. In other words, the child in the womb is protected from scarring because of the increased levels of hyaluronic acid. This hyaluronic acid exists in the skin, it exists in the connective tissues of the body. It exists between muscles, helping to lubricate areas of the body. Are you starting to understand what all this means? Are you understanding that the stitching with this white substance coming out, creating and rendering in 3D, connecting these androids together is probably representing this hyaluronic acid? I'm starting to think so, and I'm going to take it a step further. And this is going to blow some of you guys away, because they actually talk in here about osteoarthritis of the knee. This is the very position. This was 6 months ago when I started this, you guys. It says here there severe adverse effects are potential with these knee injections. So needless to say, I probably won't be digging deeper into this position, but I think it came into my path for a reason. Now here's the structure. Properties of the hyaluronic acid were first determined in the 1930s by a laboratory. Hyaluronic acid is a polymer of disaccharides, themselves composed of glucuronic acid and glucosamine. Talks here about the molecular weight. 5,000 to 20 million Daltons, the average molecular weight in human synovial fluid. This is in your knee, is 3 to 4 million Daltons. And hyaluronic acid purified from human umbilical cord is 3.14 million Daltons. A Dalton is simply a measure of molecular weight. It says here hyaluronic acid also contains silicone. And now we begin to understand what we are mixed with. Who they were depicting in Westworld were you and me. Yes, our bodies contain silicone. Silicone is sin. Let me show you that. And make sure we're still connected. Yes, we are, you guys. This is crazy, you guys. In our bodies, silicates are sand. This is why in the Bible we're compared to the sands of the sea and the stars and the sand of the sea, because we are part silicate. It's kind of like glass. I'm running into some problems here. Let's hope this populates. Now, this puts it all in perspective. This is a study looking at the cell matrix of silicone. Let's make this picture a little bit bigger. It says here, the matrix from the valve is covered with nodules corresponding in spacing and hexagonal arrangement. This is exactly what we just showed you in the inner eye, the hexagonal arrangement. This is the intercellular structure of our body. We have the matrix within us. It is the hex, the hexagon, and you're looking at it right here. Can you see the hexagonal matrix? This is characterization and localization of insoluble organic matrices associated with diatomic cell walls. What you're looking at is the structure of cell walls within our bodies. This is the reality we are. Unbelievable. Where did the silicone come from? This is silicone, and if you take the letters from the center of this, you have sin. And God said the serpent would be ascribed all the sin in the world would fall on his shoulders. Why would God say that? He would say it because it is true that the serpent seed is responsible for all silicone or all sin in the world. We are Westworld, you guys. We are fodder for the elite, just like it is depicted in the film, in the series Westworld, where they go in and do what thou wilt and kill us. This is why Superman is the man of steel, because silicone is a metalloid, steel. This is unbelievable. And no one else has talked about this or discovered this. And sometimes you can feel all alone in this world because you feel like you're the only one that cares to find the truth. All of us together on this channel, but we can't be the only ones. You would think that the world would want to know this information. Here they talk about the matrix, a bound form of silicone in glucosaminic glycans and polyuronides. Okay. It says here that silicone was found to be a constituent of certain glucosaminoglycans and polyuronides, where it occurs firmly bound to the polysaccharide matrix, firmly bound. And I just showed you pictures of that in this study that I just pulled up. Firmly bound to the matrix. Okay. Now we begin to understand what Westworld really means. Now, where are we with this? Let me pull this up. They talk about a maze, and it's mentioned throughout the Westworld theme, and it is what everyone's trying to find. The maze represents the looking within to find the answers. See, they tell you in the series where to find the answers. They tell you that the answers are within. They tell you that looking at the inner anatomy of the eye will show you, but they never actually show you the inner anatomy of the eye. They just hint at it. This is how they mock God, right? They get people fascinated with these series, trying to decode these things in all the wrong ways, focusing on all the wrong things, and instead, the real truth is underlying. Okay? You guys, the maze is representative of the outer spiral ring of Saturn. The outer ring of Saturn is not a ring at all, it's a spiral. And the maze is the corn. It's maize, M-A-I-Z-E, not M-A-Z-E. The cornfields. We are the children of the corn. Corn is more complex than human DNA. I bet you no one ever told you that. That the corn gene map has more genes in it than human DNA. Okay? And they tell us this because or they show us this, and they use corn to represent humans in the occult because they want to show you what is going on here. Now, there are several Alice in Wonderland themes. We're going to change gears a little bit here throughout. They actually mention the Mad Hatter, the main woman, the character in here is called Alice. In fact, Alice in Wonderland. Let me pull up the slides here that show you. As he's talking to his son here, he talks about the Mad Hatter, okay? And he's reading him the book of Alice in Wonderland. Now, what Alice in Wonderland represents is, if you all remember the story, a young girl who has this wild imagination that goes in through a mirror, the looking glass. She passes through this reflective glass into another realm of opposites where everything is the opposite. Everything is the opposite of what it really is. Are you starting to see the picture? Everything is the opposite of what it really is. So in other words, we don't live here, we live here. Opposites. Now, not only is it a realm of opposites, and no one has ever decoded Alice in Wonderland to the degree that I'm about to explain it to you. But what we also have is the black and white duality. Remember the part where she picks up the pawns on the chessboard? The chessboard is the black and white duality. She picks up the pawn on the chessboard and she lifts it up to the mantle. Well, what that really means, the black and white duality is the land of milk and honey. It is the serotonin and melatonin circadian rhythm of your pineal gland. I'll say that again. The black and white duality of this realm is the circadian rhythm. It represents the land of milk and honey. It represents the serotonin and melatonin of your pineal gland. Your pineal gland releases melatonin when the light that passes in through your pupil is cut off. In other words, when you close your eyelids and there's no more light coming in from the sun into your eye, your pineal gland gets a signal and it releases melatonin. And during this part of the cycle of your circadian rhythm, something very strange happens to some people. Yes, to some people. Something very strange happens when you're going through puberty and the light is cut off through your eyes and melatonin is released from your pineal gland. The strange thing that happens is that you get a condition called micropsia. In other words, you feel like a giant, and everything in the room seems very, very small. Is this all starting to sink in for you guys? Alice was in Wonderland, and she was a giant. And everything seemed really, really small. This is a real condition. It's called micropsia. It's actually called AWIS or AIWS. Alice in Wonderland syndrome is the name of this condition. And it is a result that some people get when they go through puberty, and also melatonin is released in the brain when they're in the twilight hours of falling asleep at night, just before you're about to go to sleep. And this happened to me. I'm one of those people. And when I would go to sleep at night, when I was in middle school, everything in the room seemed really small. The light switch seemed like it was twice the distance away. And I would scream out to my mother and I would ask her, something is wrong with my perception of this reality. And she didn't know what it was. But now we figured it out. Now, I know I'm probably blowing your guys' minds right now. This is a very deep show today, you guys. And hopefully people that are watching this can begin to understand what all this really means. Because if you go to the book of Numbers 13, you will see that they talk about the 12 scouts that went out into the land of Canaan. They went to the evil eye. The Israelites are battling the Canaanites. There's your duality, the dark eye and the light eye. The Israelites were the pure seed of God. They were the forefathers of Christ. The Canaanites were the dark seed. They were the enmity between the good and the bad seed. God ordered the Israelites to kill the Canaanites through a system of genocide. Why? To try to eradicate the dark side that was trying to infiltrate the seed of God so that there wouldn't be no savior to save the world. Now, when those scouts came back, that the Canaanites, in their eyes, we looked like grasshoppers. Yes, grasshoppers. We were small, but the scripture also says that in each other's eyes, we seem small. And that is the part about Numbers 13 that people don't remember. And in their eyes, we were appeared like grasshoppers. Let's look that up. Now, I've covered all this on previous videos, but some of you are new to the show. Again, if you the concepts, you want to dig deeper into some of these rabbit holes, all you got to do is type in some of these keywords on my channel, do a channel search, look up the word grasshoppers. Here it is. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. What were they talking about? You guys, have you ever seen a grasshopper up close? Remember, rhythm, the balance between melatonin and serotonin, the waking element in the waking chemical is the serotonin, the sleeping chemical is the melatonin. We're in a balance, the land of milk and honey, which is where the Israelites went. If you look at these images of the grasshopper, all have the same defining feature on their forehead, and that is mark. They have a dot. Them do. This is called the foramen, I believe is what it's called, if I can remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. But if you go, let's do this. Grasshopper head detail. Here it is. Here's the pineal mark. This pineal gland is what regulates the land of milk and honey. So when they said they were like grasshoppers, there was a reason why that. This is what proves who God is. All grasshoppers have this pineal structure, and it is a perception mechanism. It is a perception mechanism. Now, when these Israelites returned from the land of milk and honey, and they were experiencing an Alice in Wonderland episode where they all look like grasshoppers in their eyes, in each other's eyes, they were carrying grapes, fruits, or pomegranates, and figs that line the inner eye. Don't believe me? Let me show you. Now, when I first made these discoveries, I couldn't believe it. I was literally in tears of joy for the Holy Spirit revealing this. The first thing I wanted to do was share with all of you guys. Numbers 13, grapes, figs, pomegranates. Here it is. This is what they returned with. Let's look at pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. They carried the grapes, figs, and pomegranates. These are the God help me remember this. bipolar cells, ganglion, and rods and cones. This is what you're looking at here. Carried on the pole. What is the pole? The pole is the hyaloid. Now your mind is blown because the hyaloid is the hyaluronic acid. Remember the substance inside of the umbilical cord? Remember the substance inside of the umbilical cord has hyaluronic acid in it, as does the vitreous humor jelly inside the eye. And now we are beginning to understand that hyaluronic acid is hyaloid canal. This is the narrow gate back to the truth, not looking out into the material world. Okay, this is the inner eye, which leads to the cross, the crossing of the optic nerves, the two nerves that come out of the backs of both of your eyes and cross in the center of your brain. Now, I don't understand who would not want to know these deep truths. And maybe it's over some of your guys' heads, but if you were to listen to this over and over and see this for what it is, you would also understand that this is the truth. This is your hyaloid canal that I was talking about. Here is where you find the truth. Here is where you escape the white picket fence and the lens that Katy Perry was talking about. This is the narrow gate back to heaven. And guess what? This is the tree stumps. This was the conduit to heaven. These were cut off. That's why they have a silicate honeycomb matrix structure, which is what we see here. Here it is. This is it right here. These are the stumps, but this is all upside down. Remember, this is the backside of this. They're showing it to you from this way. This is WESTWORLD out here. The truth is within. This is where we really live here, okay? Narrow gate back to heaven. We go through the cross to get to the Father. We go through the Son to get to the Father, okay? This is the optic nerve coming out and crossing in the center of your brain. Here's the garden. These are the fruits, the figs and the pomegranate. The garden is all in here, in these structures around the periphery of the inner eye. Ganglion, bipolar cells, and rods and cones is the Garden of Eden, but we're cut off from the garden. This is the tree of life. Here's the tree. This is the tree trunk, and then here are the branches representing the retina. Imagine this is a giant tree, but we can't get there. We're cut off. There's only one way. This is the silver cord, the rainbow bridge. They are trying to find a way through it. The evil ones are with CERN, but they'll never get there. It is written. They're going to try, but they'll never make it. So, is this all starting to sink in for you guys? Everything is reversed. We are WESTWORLD. Now, if you guys are wondering where this music is coming from, I've got this. This is all royalty-free music, YouTube music. We'll see if that remains to be true once this video uploads. But I can pop this link in here. Control-C. For any other videographers out there that want to use soundtrack, pop this in here for you guys. Right on. Now let's keep going with this. We're almost done today, guys, if you have things that you have going on. So now that you understand the whole Alice in Wonderland theme, okay, that's what this is about. It's all about Alice in Wonderland syndrome, micropsia, feeling like a giant in a room, something about the circadian rhythm being altered in some people. Now, in the Bible, in Numbers 13, this rhythm was altered in the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, does that mean that everyone that experiences Alice in Wonderland syndrome is part of the bloodline of Christ? No, but I believe that some of us can become activated to work for the Lord, okay? We can become activated to work for the Lord. And maybe some of this is predestiny because God knows the beginning from the end. Maybe that's why I experienced this when I was a child. But if you talked to me 10 years ago, I could have never guessed that this is what I'd be doing with my life. It's like I'm a different person. Now, there are hints about the hive and the honeycomb matrix stumps throughout the series Westworld, okay? The honeycomb matrix that I just showed you throughout this presentation is a representation of our cell. It is the prison that we are in, okay? It's our prison reality, okay? We see it in these chopped off stumps around the world, as I described earlier. Now, there is a deception, a very big deception in this series, and that is that they depict God as the master of a predestined reality whose sole purpose is entertainment. So they're up in heaven just laughing it up, watching us like we're on some kind of big chessboard. This is the deception. This is what they're trying to say and depict God as, and it's simply not the truth. They depict God as seeing their learning from us in some kind of learning process, or God dividing himself out into our reality and that we are all part of God. And this is some kind of like big learning experiment for God. That's not what is going on here, you guys. What has really happened, and I want to be perfectly blunt about this, is that we are stuck in this realm because of the hex, which I demonstrated in this show today. The hex of the serpent. You guys, the hexagon matrix is the scales of the skin of a snake. That's what it is. That's why it's on the North Pole of Saturn as a giant hexagon. Saturn is Satan. It's the devil. Somehow Satan and Saturn is projecting onto us this reality through sin, the silicone, right? See how it all fits together? We are here, and it is a difficult reality. It's a form of hell. I believe we're in like an upper hell after the fall of man, but there is a way out. And that is looking within the kingdom of heaven. The truth about it is within our own physiology and our own anatomy. That's where the answers are, and they always have been. And what greater way to show us the primer or the inner secrets, ultimate secrets, than for God, the creator of our universe, to implant them into our own anatomy for those of us who really want and try to find these ultimate truths, to find everlasting life and be free from the curse, you see. Now, got a couple more slides in here. There's a guy here pointing at this. They find this artifact inside Westworld, and it looks like the constellation Orion. And we've talked a lot about Orion on this channel, the belt of Orion specifically. And in here, the android throws this investigator off course and says to her, "That's not the belt of Orion. Orion doesn't have 4 stars. It has 3 stars." Well, that's a lie. Orion has 4 stars. I'm going to show it to you. This is Orion. The belt is made up. It says 3 bright stars, Zeta, Epsilon, and Delta. But if you look here, one of these is a double star. Mintaka is 915 light years away and shines a magnitude 2.21. It is 90,000 times more luminous than the sun and is a double star. The two orbit each other every 5.73 days. So, Orion's belt actually has 4 stars. Now, the reason why I believe they showed this part of the film and the series and brought in this Orion's belt and this 3 and 4 star thing is for you to understand that you shouldn't just listen to what you're told. Okay. Part of the way out of the matrix is your perception of this reality. And if you just buy what you're told and don't read between the lines, you're accepting their algorithms. You're accepting their behavioral patterns. And you'll never, ever get to the truth doing that. Here they're depicting one of the androids trying to knock God. This is what they want you to do. She says, our lives are memories, our deaths are games to them. And that is what they want you to believe about the Most High. They want you to not consider is that the devil is the one that all sin should be ascribed to. Now that you know what the matrix is, really, that it is the hex put on mankind, you'll be much more equipped. And your faith should be a million times stronger today after watching this program, because now you know the truth. You're not going to learn this in any church. You're not going to learn this anywhere because they want to minimize the fallen angel incursion onto the bloodlines of mankind, because then there is no reason for a savior. There is no reason why Jesus' blood would correct our blood, because maybe we could do it ourselves is what they're want is going to be the big deception. Okay, that's my belief system. That all these religions are going to give in the 11th hour and convince all their followers that somehow Christ isn't real. We made a mistake. Now, some of you out there probably have some knee problems and you're a little interested in this whole hyaluronic acid knee injections that's bioequivalent to this synovial fluid inside of your knee through its molecular weight. And we understand that this hyaluronic acid has silicone in it, which is robotic. And that basically we're almost part robot already because of the sin. Silicone is the sin, right? It's the hex. Now, no need for fear because we're all saved through the blood of the Lamb if we believe, okay? But for those of you that don't want to put any more silicone in your body, no more hyaluronic acid, there's natural foods that you can eat that mimic and help improve the synovial fluid within all of your joints, okay? Extra virgin olive oil. Lubricin has lubricin in it, which improves the ability of the synovial fluid to protect the surrounding cartilage and serves as a lubricant, and all these foods do. Salmon, people tell me not to kill and eat fish. Red peppers, cherries, walnuts, kale, soy. Now, if you've already got too much estrogen, you might not want to eat soy. Apples, garlic, eggs. Shouldn't be too remarkable that a yolk-filled egg helps out your yolk-like synovial fluid. Is a coincidence, of course, but eggs are still high in sulfur, helping produce the cartilage shell that surrounds the fluid. Eggs can also be high in omega-3 fatty acids. So those are some health tips for you guys. If you have any knee or joint problems, your hyaluronic acid in your knee can actually replenish itself, but it's got to be given the chance to do so. And when it's low or when it's leaking out of your knee from osteoarthritis of the knee, you get the bone-on-bone damage to your joints. And that's what you want to prevent. All right, I'm in the chat, you guys. Gosh, how long did we go? Just over an hour. That's a lot of information, you guys, I just dropped. And hopefully this was helpful today. But I want to talk to you guys for a little bit before we get off here for at least the next 15 minutes. Read through the chat here. See Life of Cal, Liz. Hi, Liz. Trisha. You're welcome, Trisha. Much love. The Truth is Flats in the house. Eric Green. John Smith. Much love to you, John. You're welcome for the information. Hopefully I didn't go too fast and the concepts can sink in, but I believe what we found is the root of all sin from the serpent hexing us in this reality. Green Man, USN Grey Ghost, Heidi, Pootie Tang, Life of Cal, Brian, Oath of God, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for your support. Catherine O'Connell. Yeah, there is a path. Jesus talks about the disciples said when talking to Jesus about divorce, "Are you saying, Jesus, that it is better not to marry?" And he says, "Yes, but few will find that path." It may be an easier path. I don't know, but I see some of you talking about celibacy. Much love to you too, Lori. Jessica Mambo. Thanks, Life for Cal. Appreciate it. There's Debbie. Yeah. Amanda's had bone-on-bone knee arthritis since 25. Establishment does lie to you. They want those total knee replacements. Now, the study I read about this hyaluronic acid was they couldn't really find a definitive improvement in the knee. Okay. What I was told is it helps the cushion. Now, if you just look at it from a mechanical standpoint, if you could replace that fluid in the knee and stop the bones from crushing on one another and give the synovial fluid in your knee a chance to replenish on its own, stopping the damage to the knee, I could see how that could work. But they were saying there were some complications, so you would have to dig deeper into that. Thanks, Audrius. See Audrius in the house. Liz. All right, you guys. So, where are we at now? Trying to think if there's anything else. Silicone in our hyaluronic acid. Wow. So let's close this. Some stars there. Some of you have asked about the new affiliate that I'm affiliated with, grasslandbeef.com. And a lot of you don't eat meat, and I understand that. We do have another option that I'm working on called vitacost.com. Now, your inclination is going to be to run over there and check it out and start ordering food, but please wait because I'll have a link, and when you use that link, it helps support this channel. I get a few percent of your order. So that's a way to support the channel by not just giving money away, but also getting something very, very valuable in return. Vitacost.com is amazing. If you go there and check it out, you will see what I'm talking about. Actually, I'll give you the link here, but please don't order yet until I get a link, which will help this channel, of course. They've got everything. It's for vegans. It's for kosher. It's antibiotic, hormone-free, vegetarian, everything you can imagine on this site. They ship it directly to your house. It's low-cost stuff. The shipping is free if you order over $40. And they've got everything you can imagine on this site. They've got honey. They've got sauces, pastas, almond butter, all the stuff you buy in the Whole Food store. I challenge any of you to look at the prices and you will see that it is the same or less, except you don't have to leave your house and go to a store. Ships directly to your house within a few days. My orders when I was working in the Matrix world still, and I had my YouTube channel, I ordered some of this stuff more regularly. Now I can't really afford it, but It's funny how all this comes full circle, because I'm sure once we're approved as an affiliate for them, you guys are going to be ordering this stuff like every month. Goes directly to your house. And oh, do they have Canadian shipping? I'm not sure, T. Baldwin. I think they do. I think they do. You'll have to go to the site and check it out. But is Vitacost co-owned by Dr. Oz? I don't know. That's a good question. Now it's various and random. I've never heard that before, but because you're asking the question, you must know something that maybe we don't. But you guys, this world is run by these elite, okay? We're on a platform owned by Google, for Pete's sake. You know, you can't escape it. The beauty of this site, regardless of who owns it, is that it's all various brands. It's not just Vitacost brands. They have Vitacost brands that you can buy that are cheaper. But these are various brands from all different places, and it's basically they can get away with giving you the same price or less than a Whole Food store, because it's all in these central warehouses, and they don't have to pay overhead on these stores. And of course, we know that Whole Foods is price gouging. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to go to a grocery store. I don't want to be around that energy. If I can have something shipped to my house, I'm going to do it. So keep an ear out for the link to vitacost.com, and please order through me. It's not going to cost you any more to order through me, but it's going to help this channel if you do order through me. And again, for the people that do eat meat that want antibiotic-free, hormone-free, grass-fed meat, not with corn, this is about as close as you're going to get to, I believe much of it's organic. It's about as close as you're going to get to the highest quality meats. Some people believe in meat and that it is essential to a strong and healthy diet occasionally. Then I would recommend that you look at the link in the description on this video if you want to order from grasslandbeef.com. I think these cattle and all different kinds of meats, it's not just beef, it's lamb, chicken, everything, all fed on grass-fed naturally. Many of these are in Wisconsin, okay, in the grasslands of Wisconsin. That's where a lot of this is happening. Now, we're never going to be able to get completely away from the chemtrailing and all the impurities in our environment, but in the least, we don't want hormones and antibiotics and pesticides in our diet. And this is a really good way to do it. Again, these meats ship fresh, frozen to your house. Now, when I used to get my orders a couple years ago, they would come in like a cooler, basically. I don't know how they get away with the low cost that they can provide. But again, I think it's because it's coming out of a centralized location. It goes out to and is available to everyone in the country. And so they can get away with those cost savings. But basically, it comes in your own personalized cooler. And when it gets to your house, they're individually wrapped in their own packages. And it comes almost frozen, solid. They ship it overnight, probably. That's probably why, because it's in a cooler. It's got cold packs in it and everything. Ships directly to your house. It's frozen solid. And my favorite thing to order was the ground beef. And believe it or not, the ground beef with a little bit more fat in it tastes the best. Now, for some of you, you're going to be like, this tastes different. And it does, because it is the way that these cattle roamed in the wild during the time of the Native Americans across the vast grasslands of this country. That is what the meat is going to taste like. Okay. So for those of you that want to try it, it's a pretty fascinating experience. I can tell you that I never felt sick. I felt almost this weird kind of power like from it. Like I felt better eating these meats versus going to the grocery store and buying regular ground beef in the grocery store. Which is, of course, full of hormones and pesticides, and it's corn-fed, which is not natural for cattle. They're supposed to be fed from the grass because that's what they eat, right? So, something for everybody. You guys, it is going to be essential going forward on this channel. I need your support in this way. I have refused to open up a Patreon account. I don't want to put the burden of just putting money in my account when you two are fighting the very same fight I am. We all have to survive in this matrix. But if there's something I can give you that's not going to cost you any more, is actually going to save you money, and it's something you're going to get anyway, then I'm going to provide it for you. So it's a win-win for both of us. Okay. These aren't just some random sponsors that I picked up. I've used both of these sites since 2013, and I've had very excellent experiences with both of them. So I encourage you guys who do want to help. Of course, the PayPal is always open at enter the 5T4RZ at yahoo.com. That's in the description as well. But if you don't have money just to give away and you want something back and you like meat, go to the link in the description for grasslandmeats or beef.com. And again, soon we're going to be rolling out Vitacost, and you guys are going to love that. A couple of you have already expressed interest in Vitacost. Some of you are actually already ordering from Vitacost. And I can tell you, between the meat site and Vitacost, I was probably spending $150 a month house, and that food alone would last me an entire month for 150 bucks. You end up spending less, you end up eating less, you end up with less stress having to deal with going into the grocery store. You got your staples that you know are whole foods. You know they are at the same cost. I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to do this, but if you've ever had to trust anybody about something, this is something I've had a lot of experience with, and I've never gone wrong. Now, I will tell you, with the meat website, it is a different taste. So start out small. Start with just some things, like order like $20 worth of stuff. Ship it to your house, see what you like and see what you don't like, okay? I didn't really like their jerkies, but I loved their ground beef was second to none. It definitely tasted way better than the ground beef that you get in the store. I never ordered any of like the really prime cuts just because I couldn't afford it. Some of those prime cuts, like the filet mignon and stuff like that, I never ever ordered. Mostly I just ordered the ground beef. And I tried some of their sausages. Their sausages, they have like kosher hot dogs and stuff like that. And it's free from the typical stuff that goes into a hot dog that causes people to get sick. They don't have any of that in their hot dogs and sausages. Okay. I forget what that's called. It's called like is it the silicates? It's the preserving part of the hot dog, which is, if you eat too much of that, especially in bacon too, it can make you very, very sick. So they don't have that in their meats. And you can look at the specifications. They have a hotline there you can call if you have any questions. Again, the link's in the description, you guys. So I appreciate all the support that you guys have given me, and I appreciate you guys coming on the show today. And gosh, I think that's about it, you guys. Let me look in the chat here. You guys are having the old vegetarian meat debate in the chat. Look, I'm not going to knock anyone who's a vegetarian, but where I draw the line is the militant vegetarians who attack people who eat meat. Because if I'm not going to attack you, the Bible says let's not judge each other by what we eat or drink, okay? And I have gotten some, I call them vegetarists, have come on this channel and attacked me, told me I was going to burn in hell for doing what Noah did, what Jesus did, what all the Israelites did, which was to kill and eat animals. Okay, so that's Antichrist. Well, I'm not going to say okay, because again, we're not supposed to judge each other by what we eat or drink, right? So we're not going to have that debate. All right, so what else do we have here? Pootie Tang says, I think the reason why grass-fed beef tastes a little more ranch is because grass-fed cows eat more of their poop as they eat what they're walked and pooped on. Okay. I don't think that the meat tastes rancid at all. And that's how they roaming in vast grasslands, okay? So they're not eating where they're pooping, okay? Once you give cattle enough space to roam around, they're just like a dog. They're not going to shit where they sleep, excuse the pun, but that's what is going on, okay? Animals are not stupid. But if they are penned up and caged up Yeah, of course, they're going to be eating where they're pooping. And so out in these vast grasslands, you can actually go on the site and they show you these where these cows are roaming, and it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres. Okay, so and God wouldn't have us eating them if He thought that that's what was going to happen. Let's see here. You think it tastes a little bit the way manure smells? Well, Pootie Tang, are you a vegetarian? I mean, that's probably what someone would say who just doesn't agree with eating animals, period, because vegetarians I talk to who don't eat meat have very bad things to say about any kind of meat. Okay. So I'm not going to win that battle. Okay. Yeah. Beef tastes gross. It's a dead animal. I mean, if you're looking at it that way, but if you look at it through what the Bible says, then you understand that that's natural and normal. It's just we've been lied to by the serpent. Yes, meat in the US is filled with hormones, except when you go to US Wellness Meats or grasslandbeef.com. They don't have any hormones in theirs, which is the only reason why I would promote something like this. All right, you guys, I think I'm going to pop off of here. Much love to you guys. Appreciate you coming out. And I will catch you on the flip side, you guys.